Hello and welcome back, friends. Today we're going to talk about developing spoken communication, a paper prescribed by Swami Ramananda Tirth Marathwada University, Nanded, for the students of first year. There are 4 units in this paper. The first unit is Introduction to Spoken English. The second is Preparing the Basics of Spoken Communication. The third is Hosting a Formal Function. And the fourth is Developing Conversation in Different Situations. These 4 units are again subdivided into 4 parts. For example, in the first unit, you have communication, meaning and types. Number 2 is importance of spoken communication. 3 is aspects of spoken communication. 4 is non-verbal communication. In the second unit, you have introducing, asking questions, using imperative sentences and using exclamations. In unit number 3, you have essentials of formal function, comparing, delivering welcome speech, proposing a vote of thanks. And in the last unit, you have conversation in the bank, conversation at the railway station, conversation at the airport, and telephonic conversation. You can also look at your screen and take the screenshot if you want your syllabus to be with you. Now, we'll start talking about contents of the syllabus. The first part of your syllabus is communication. Actually, the title of the paper is Developing Spoken Communication. So what we are supposed to develop here in this paper is the spoken communication. So let us understand, first of all, what is the communication. The word communication originates from the Latin words. There are 2 Latin words, communicare, which means transmit, and the other is communis, which means share. Thus, communication is the transfer and reception of information, ideas, thoughts, or feelings. What is communication? It is the transfer and reception of information, ideas, thoughts, or feelings. Now, the process of communication involves transmission and reception of 2 things. These 2 things are verbal signals and non-verbal signals. Now, what are the verbal signals? Words, phrases, sentences that we utter, that we speak, are actually the verbal signals. And what are the non-verbal signals? For example, written language, facial expression, body movements, visual aids, etc. are said to be the non-verbal signals. See, effective communication helps in 4 things. There are many things that effective communication helps in, but basically it helps in 4 things. They are, first of all, it helps in communicating messages of all sorts. Second is, it helps in collaborating. Third is, it also helps in building relationships, and it also helps in solving problems. That is what effective communication does to us. The process of communication. The process of communication has a few requirements. For example, basic requirements of the process of communication are: number 1, that you should have a message that you're supposed to send. Number 2, you need to have a sender of the message. Number 3, you need to have the receiver of the message. And number 4, you need to have the medium. Now, message may be information, message may be idea, thought, or feeling that you intend to communicate. Sender is the person or a group of persons who intend to send that message, and receiver is the person who receives that message and understands it. And the medium is the language that you use to send that message. Now, technically speaking, in terms of technical words, or technically speaking, communication is the process of encoding and decoding. There are 2 things in the process of communication. First is encoding. The message is encoded in the form of the language. The sender of the message encodes the message in the language and then sends it to the receiver, and receiver, when receives it, decodes it and tries to understand its meaning. There are also basic types of communication. The most important of them are verbal communication and non-verbal communication. Now, what is verbal communication? Verbal communication is the communication that is done with the help of a language. That means you use words for the communication and verbal communication. Verbal, the word itself shows that there are verbs in the sense there are words in it, and words are the part of the language. So, verbal communication uses language. Now, what is non-verbal communication? Non-verbal communication is the communication which is done with the help of gestures and postures or the movements of the body. So non-verbal communication doesn't use the language, rather it uses the body movements. There are three types of verbal communication. First is oral or spoken communication. Second is written communication, and third is visual communication. Now, to speak of the oral communication, which is also known as spoken communication, it includes face-to-face conversations, discussions, telephone conversations, speeches, presentations, online shows and programs, and so on and so forth. So these many things are there in the spoken communication. Spoken communication that we generally see around us. We talk to the people directly, face to face. Sometimes we discuss things with the people. We talk on the telephone. We deliver speeches. We give presentations. And we also watch the online programs, or even we conduct the online programs. So this is how spoken communication is carried out. Now let's talk of the written communication. What does the written communication include? The written communication includes letters, memos, reports, emails, articles, books, poems, and also written dialogues. There are other things also, you can add them there. But letters we write, memos we write, or the officers write, reports we submit, emails we do write to our friends or the offices or the institutions, articles we write for the newspapers, for the books or something. We tend to write books also, we write poems, we write dialogues. So these are all the forms of written communication. Now there is another communication which is known as visual communication. Visual communication is the communication which is identified through the sight. That means you communicate things with the help of your eyes only. Now what is there in the visual communication? In visual communication we have charts, we have graphs, we have diagrams, photographs and videos. These are the mediums of visual communication. Visual communication include these many things. Now let's talk of the non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication includes personal appearance, how do you look, facial expressions, how you use your facial expressions while talking, your body language, that means how you stand or how you walk, that is called body language, whether you seem confident or not, whether you are nervous, that is the body language. Then you have haptics. It includes haptics also. Haptics means anything that you sense with the help of touch and other senses. And there is proximus. In the proximus, it's a kind of personal space in terms of communication. Sometimes what happens, people do not want to listen to a few things. If a person listening to you is not sympathetic towards you, it becomes very difficult for you to send the message that you intend to send them. So that kind of problem is always there. So basically the thing is that non-verbal communication includes personal appearance, facial expressions, body language, eye contact, haptics and proximus. There are a few other types of communication also. Let's understand these four types of communication which are generally seen in the institutions or organizations. So these four types of communication are upward communication. What happens in the upward communication? In the upward communication, flow of information is there from the lower level to the higher level in the organizational structures. That means from the peon or the clerk, it reaches to the highest post like managing director or so. There is another type of communication known as downward communication. In downward communication, flow of information is from higher level to the lower level. I mean, it comes from the highest officer to the lowest officer. Now, these are the two basic types of communications in organizational structures. There is another type of communication known as horizontal communication, in which the communication takes place between the group of individuals or the departments or between the people. That is called horizontal communication. And the last one is called grapevine communication. This is the kind of communication in which communication takes place through the informal sources. I mean, there are no formal sources of communication. It is not the official letter or official information that you gain. It is the kind of communication that you gain through the informal sources. See, communication can also be divided into two types again, depending on the way people speak. These two types are known as formal communication and informal communication. The formal communication actually follows conventional rules like protocols, hierarchies, formats, styles in language. I mean, everything specified is there in a formal communication. If you are talking to a person in the office, you follow a protocol. You try to use the hierarchy, you try to use the format that you use, or you try to follow the style. That is in case of formal communication. For example, in official memos, there is a format. When you write a report, there is a prescribed format given, and it is deliberately written in a specific style. For example, if you are preparing the company policies, or if you are preparing the presentations and delivering presentations to your superiors or to your subordinates, you follow a specific pattern. That is called formal communication. It has a specific form. And the other one is informal communication. Now, what is informal communication? Informal communication that doesn't have any specified form. That is called informal communication. Informal communication is basically casual, and it is a kind of spontaneous interaction between the people. For example, informal conversations between friends, family, chats, social media exchanges, unofficial letters, emails, and any sort of conversation that doesn't need a specified form. These are called informal forms of communication. I think I have made the point about the communication. You have understood. You can look back to all the slides and try to find out the essence of the communication, because that is what you're supposed to write in the examination. I hope you have liked this video. If you have liked it, please like it, share it with your friends, and do not forget to subscribe for the channel, because you will also get the next video of the same syllabus soon.